My name is Shaun Murawski, and I am a photographer and a poet based in Glasgow in Scotland. My practice tends to be quite simply taking photographs and writing poems or writing words down. Everything that I document or write comes from a place of presence and absence, or a combination of the two of them, because I think most things in life come from presence and absence. And so that's what I'm constantly fascinated by, or tugging at, or looking at, or trying to explain to myself and in turn other people. I tend to work on a quite spontaneous and emotional level, and that most of my work is both unconsciously made and a very conscious process, in that I always have a camera with me. I always have quite often always have a notepad and pen with me, and I'm just documenting what I see, what I feel, when I feel compelled to do so. When I see or feel something that I think needs time to be looked at more carefully, even if it's just something that makes me stop and look at it, or stop and think, or something that stops me while I'm sitting doing something else. For me, the presence part of presence and absence is just simply attention. We live in a time and in a society where attention is completely commodified and advertised to and bought and sold, and our attention is very rarely being pulled in a direction that really means anything to us. And it's so very, very easy to be overwhelmed by that. I know I constantly am on a daily basis. So I feel like a large part of my practice and the work that I make comes from pulling away to that or rejecting. So my work and my practice comes from being present in the current moment, and the absence also comes from both the nostalgia and the introspection that comes from being truly present, because when you're truly present in the moment, you're aware of everything that's there, but you're also aware of everything that's not. My project is called There. It's the Gaelic for mother. And the project is basically, it's about my mother who passed away unexpectedly in the pandemic. It's more largely a discussion on the sort of, again, the presence and absence, the ever sort of present understanding we have, or unwillingness we have to not embrace death, but talk about it on a realistic level that involves real presence and eye contact. Yeah, it's a discussion. It's a discussion about something that we rarely discuss. We only discuss about it in the absence of it, not in the presence of it. In the presence of it, we look the other way. We seem comfortable. There are more dialogues and there are more conversations on grief now and love and loss than there ever has been, but we don't talk about that in the present. We talk about that in the absence of. We talk about that in the past tense. We quite often, because of that, we put a distance between the here and now. For me, a large part of certainly my practice and my work is about common threads and commonality. So for me, it's about pulling at or tugging at that thread or commonality for me, sometimes in quite a practical sense, in that my photographs tend to be quite dark and there's lots of shadow and there's lots of potentially abstraction and what is there or what isn't there, what you are looking at, what you aren't looking at. For poetry, certainly for me, it's very much the opposite. When the page is there, I really only have the option of putting the words down, and there's no hiding or there's no abstraction. Sometimes to give a very obvious explanation or a very obvious detail to what was potentially hidden or hinted at before, and sometimes it's just to give relevance. And sometimes it's just the common thread or the commonality within that day or within that moment. There's often that I see something that makes me feel a certain way that I like, that I want to document, but when I take a photograph, it doesn't look how it feels. I'm not able to explain that. Poems or poetry or the words on the page, that helps that. It's just another tool for me to be able to do that. And when they're paired together, it gives the image something to lean up against. It's two things leaning up against one another with their back facing one another.